Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? This one's got us heading back to 1935 Kansas City
Oh?
to try and unravel the mystery surrounding the murder of a man who checked into a hotel under the name Roland T. Owen,
Hmm.
but was later identified as Artemis Ogletree.
See, even his name is a mystery.
Exactly. And we're talking false identities, secret rendezvous,
Posthumous letters, even?
the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
To guide us through this, we've got a super detailed case study by Dr. John Arthur Horner.
A fantastic resource for this case.
Absolutely. And for a different perspective, we'll also be looking at a more, shall we say, sensationalized article from a 1943 magazine.
So we can compare how the story's been told over time.
Exactly. So picture this. January 1935, the hotel president,
Okay.
a man calling himself Roland T. Owen, checks in.
Right.
Requests an interior room on an upper floor, no luggage. There's just this air of secrecy.
We're off the bat. That's unusual.
Right. What do you make of that?
Well, it's not your typical traveler, that's for sure.
No.
The lack of luggage, the specific room request, it all suggests he wanted to keep a low profile.
Like he was hiding something?
Exactly.
Okay.
Or someone, impossibly. It's like he's trying to disappear.
Right. Reinvent himself.
Exactly. A new identity.
And the first person to notice something's off is the bellhop,
Okay.
Randolph Probst.
Right.
He describes Owen as well-dressed, but nervous. Almost paranoid, only carrying a comb, toothbrush, and toothpaste.
Interesting. So basic necessities.
Yeah, it's like he packed in a hurry.
Or acquired those items recently.
Ooh, good point.
Ooh.
Maybe ditching his old life piece by piece.
Could be.
Then there's this weird comment he makes about the prices at the Millibacock Hotel,
Okay.
claiming he stayed there the previous night, but it turns out he didn't.
So, a lie. Why?
Right. Was he trying to mislead someone?
Maybe throw investigators off his trail?
It's possible.
Definitely adds to the mystery.
And the strange behavior doesn't stop there.
Go on.
The maid, Mary Soptic, always finds his room dark. Shades drawn, like he's avoiding being seen.
Not just discreet, actively hiding.
Right. And then there's this note found later, simply addressed to Dawn.
Dawn.
Yeah, it just says, Dawn, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait.
Ooh, cryptic.
Right. Who's Dawn? What's the urgency?
Sounds like he wasn't alone in this.
Like something bigger was going on.
Oh, almost like a spy movie.
Totally. And Dawn is just the beginning.
I bet.
So we've got Dawn out there somewhere. And it seems like this Dawn wasn't just a pen pal.
Wow.
The maid overhears Ogletree on the phone with him,
Yeah.
refusing an invitation to go eat. But there's something, I don't know, strange about it. Like Ogletree's being very careful.
Like he's worried about what he says.
Exactly.
So maybe they weren't as close as that note suggested.
Yeah, good point.
Or their relationship was more complicated.
Possibly. And later, the maid hears two men's voices in Ogletree's room.
Two men.
Yeah, and one of them sounded, rough, according to her. She knocks, and the rough voice says, "We don't need any towels."
So they definitely didn't want her to come in.
Right, like they were hiding something.
Or someone.
Could this be our mysterious Dawn?
It's possible. It definitely seems like Ogletree had company.
Yeah, and this is where things get really strange.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Late Thursday night, a water department worker, Robert Lane,
Okay.
sees a man running down the street, acting really erratically.
Erratically how?
Like he was scared, desperate. Lane thinks he's hailing a cab, so he stops.
Why?
And when the guy gets in, Lane sees dope scratches on his arm.
Scratches.
Yeah, and blood dripping from his hands.
Okay, this is getting creepy.
And get this, before jumping out of the car, the man mumbles something about killing someone the next day.
What?
I know, right?
So that suggests a threat, a plan.
Definitely. And hold on, because it gets even crazier.
Oh, boy.
Lane later identifies this man as, you guessed it,
No way.
our friend Roland T. Owen, a.k.a. Artemis Ogletree.
Wow. So between leaving the hotel and this encounter, something happened.
Yeah, something violent. Because later they find out Ogletree had a fractured skull.
A fractured skull. So he was already injured when Lane saw him.
Exactly. It wasn't just the scratches and cuts.
That definitely points to a fight.
Right, and we still don't know who he was with.
This is getting more and more complex.
It is. And then there's another character who enters the picture.
Okay.
The commercial woman.
The commercial woman.
Yeah, she's seen at the hotel multiple times trying to find Ogletree's room.
Interesting.
But she seems confused about the room number, and later, she's seen with an unidentified man.
Huh. So another mystery person.
Right. What was she doing there? What's her connection to Ogletree?
It's unclear, but she's definitely part of this story somehow.
Yeah, and her role is just one of many unanswered questions.
This is like peeling back layers of an onion.
Totally.
And it just keeps getting more intriguing.
Okay, so Friday morning, the phone in Ogletree's room is off the hook. The hotel operator sends bellhop Randolph Probst.
The one who checked him in.
Yep. To check on him.
Makes sense.
He knocks. No answer. But hears a voice saying, "Come in."
Huh. Strange.
But the door's locked from the outside.
Oh, odd.
He knocks again. The voice says, "Turn on the lights."
Okay, so someone's definitely in there.
But still locked. Probst, thinking Ogletree's just drunk, goes back downstairs.
Right.
But an hour and a half later, the phone's off the hook again.
Wow, persistent.
I know. So another bellhop, Harold Pike, goes up.
Okay.
This time, he uses a passkey.
To get in.
Yeah, but guess what?
Locked from the outside again.
You got it.
That's a pretty big clue.
Right. It means someone was in that room and locked it when they left.
And Ogletree was still alive at that point.
Exactly. Pike finds Ogletree lying naked on the bed, surrounded by blood.
Oh my gosh.
The phone's knocked over, blood on the walls in the bathroom.
That's a disturbing scene.
It is, but Pike just figures Ogletree's passed out drunk, straightens the room, and leaves.
He didn't realize how serious it was.
No, unfortunately not.
This is intense.
It is, and it gets worse. Around 10:30 that morning, the phone's off the hook again.
This guy and his phone.
I know, right? This time, Props goes back up.
The first bellhop.
Yeah, and this time he finds Ogletree on his hands and knees near the door.
Oh, no.
Covered in blood.
Sounds like he was trying to get help.
Yeah, but too weak to open the door.
Oh, man.
So Props gets help. The police are called.
Finally.
They find Ogletree barely conscious. He'd been brutally beaten.
Oh, wow.
Stabbed, cords tied around his neck, wrists, and ankles.
This was personal, not just a random attack.
I agree. And here's where it gets even more confusing.
More confusing. How?
No clothes, no luggage, no weapon. Just a hairpin, safety pin, an unlit cigarette, a small bottle of sulfuric acid, and a label from a necktie.
Okay, that's weird.
Right, like the killer tried to clean up any evidence.
Get rid of anything connecting them to Ogletree.
Yeah.
The sulfuric acid. That's chilling.
Ogletree dies in the hospital a few hours later.
So he never regained consciousness to tell his story.
No, which makes solving this even harder.
This is like a real-life locked room mystery.
It is, and it gets even more complicated from here, trust me.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, so where do we even begin to untangle this mess? Thankfully, Dr. Horner's work gives us a solid starting point.
Yeah, he breaks it down really well.
He really does. He points out those items we found, especially the hairpin.
Ah, yeah, that suggests a woman was present.
Right, and not just any woman, probably someone close to Ogletree.
And the safety pin. Remember, it was damaged, probably from being forced open?
Oh, yeah, and combined with Ogletree being found naked, that could mean there was a struggle.
Yeah, it paints a pretty disturbing picture.
It does. And Dr. Horner highlights another thing. Ogletree was a strong guy, not easily subdued.
Good point.
But he was tied up, bound with cords.
So it would have taken a lot of force to restrain him.
Or maybe he was tripped somehow.
Yeah, maybe. Either way, this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment attack.
No, definitely planned out.
And then there's that missing door key.
Ah, right. The locked room element.
The fact the door was locked from the outside each time.
Yeah.
That was deliberate.
To prevent interruptions.
Exactly. Make it look like no one could have gotten interrupted.
Like a classic locked room mystery.
Right. But Dr. Horner thinks that necktie label we found, that might be a clue.
Oh, how so?
Well, it was torn off maybe during a fight, like Ogletree was trying to get a tie off his neck.
Oh, wow. Like he was being strangled with it.
It's possible. And remember those guests in the next room. They reported hearing sounds like drunken snoring around 4 a.m.
Yeah, I remember that.
That could have been Ogletree struggling to breathe during the attack.
Chilling.
It is. And then there's that sulfuric acid.
Yeah, why bring it and not use it?
Right. It doesn't make sense. Unless. Well, Dr. Horner suggests the killer might have planned to disfigure Ogletree's face.
To make identification harder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But maybe something interrupted them, forced them to leave quickly.
Leaving the acid behind.
It's a chilling thought, but it fits.
It does, and Dr. Horner also talks about those famous last words.
The nobody, and I fell against the bathtub.
Yeah, many believe Ogletree was trying to protect his killer.
But Dr. Horner disagrees.
Oh, tell me more.
He thinks Ogletree injured and in shock, might have genuinely been confused.
Not really knowing what happened.
Right. He might not have even realized how badly hurt he was at first. Remember, he didn't call for help earlier.
That's a good point. It's a different perspective.
It is, and one worth considering.
So we've got this expertly analyzed crime scene, but still no motive and no suspect.
Right, so who was Ogletree and why was he killed?
Well, Dr. Horner dives into Ogletree's life, creating a timeline.
Like putting the pieces of a puzzle together.
Exactly. And we see this shift in his behavior after arriving in Kansas City.
How so?
He starts dressing better, staying at hotels, being seen with women.
Not exactly the broke hitchhiker anymore.
Right. It's like he came into money, but maybe not legally.
Drugs were a big problem back then.
Yeah, maybe he got involved in something dangerous.
That would explain the need for secrecy, the fear.
It would. And Dr. Horner also suggests a possible connection between Ogletree and that Jane Doe mentioned in the calls.
The jilted sister.
Right, and the Louise on the flowers, maybe there was a love triangle.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that could be it.
And Dawn, Dr. Horner thinks he might be Jane Doe's brother, angry about how Ogletree treated her.
That makes sense. It explains those tense interactions the maid witnessed.
It does. But what about the commercial woman?
Right. What was her role in all of this?
This is where things get really interesting. Dr. Horner believes she was used by the killer, unknowingly.
Used? How?
Well, remember how she was confused about the room numbers, asking about different rooms?
Yeah, and later she was seen with a man, potentially the same one from the hotel room.
Exactly. Dr. Horner suggests this man may be involved with Jane Doe. He was the killer.
So he used the commercial woman to get information about Ogletree.
And maybe even get his room key.
Wow, that's devious. But it would explain how he got in and out of that locked room.
It would, and imagine this. He waits for the commercial woman to leave, then slips into Ogletree's room.
And maybe even drugs him, explaining why Ogletree was overpowered so easily.
Then those sounds the guests heard, that was the struggle, the attack.
And the torn necktie label, Ogletree fighting back.
But ultimately losing.
The killer cleans up, takes Ogletree's belongings, and leaves the commercial woman none the wiser.
A classic setup. Jealousy, manipulation, and violence.
Just like a noir film.
It is, but what about Louise? Where does she fit in?
This is where Dr. Horner's theory gets really heartbreaking.
Go on.
He believes Louise wasn't a person, but a symbol representing Jane Doe's unborn child.
Oh, wow. So the roses weren't from a lover, but from a grieving mother.
Yeah, secret tribute. She couldn't openly mourn the father of her child.
That's so sad. And the love forever message.
A reminder of a love lost, a life cut short.
Wow. So Louise becomes the heart of the story, the unspoken tragedy.
A reminder that behind every mystery, there are real people with real emotions.
And real consequences.
Absolutely.
Well, this deep dive into room 1046 leaves us with more questions than answers.
It always seems to happen that way with these cases, doesn't it?
It really does. Was it a crime of passion? Was the commercial woman truly clueless, or was there more to her story?
And what about Don? Was he really involved, or just a concerned brother?
We may never know the full truth, but Dr. Horner's analysis gives us a lot to think about.
It does. It's a fascinating look at a complex case.
It is, and it reminds us how easily things can spiral out of control.
And the importance of looking beyond the surface to find the real story.
Exactly. So, what are your thoughts? What stood out to you in this case? Do you agree with Dr. Horner?
Or do you have your own theories? Let us know. We love hearing from you.
We do. Keep those theories coming, because maybe, just maybe, someone out there holds the key to finally solving the mystery of room 1046.
It could happen. And until then, happy sleuthing, everyone.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive.